Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something pretty profound, how character gets forged. Not through, the usual routes of ambition or success, but through unexpected love. And all set against this background of really deep, old friction in a community.
Yeah, our sources mainly follow the story of Landon Carter. He's in Beaufort, North Carolina, and we're looking back with him about 40 years to when he was a teenager. It's all about his transformation from this kind of superficial kid into someone with real substance.
And our mission here, I guess, is to unpack that transformation. It's not just Landon's personal story, is it? It feels like it's also a lens on the problems, the generational issues, maybe even corruption right at the heart of that town's power structure.
Exactly. We're following Landon. He's 57, looking back at being 17. And he says it himself. His life totally changed that year.
Yeah.
You can't just sum it up quickly.
Right. He says his story can't be summed up in 2 or 3 sentences. That really sets the stage. It's the year before the millennium. He remembers these overcast skies, but also the dogwoods and azaleas blooming. It suggests like change coming out of something kind of gray and stagnant.
A good image. But yeah, to get the change, you first have to understand the system he was sort of pushing against, even if you didn't realize it at first.
Okay, so let's talk about Beaufort society. The sources seem to really zero in on the Carter family legacy first. This sounds like where the power and maybe the problems really started.
Definitely. Landon's father, Worth Carter, he was this big shot congressman, represented a huge chunk of eastern North Carolina. But he was gone, like 9 months a year in D.C. Landon basically saw him as a stranger.
And the family money, the influence that let him be a congressman, it wasn't exactly clean, was it? Came from Landy's grandfather.
Oh, not at all. Landon calls him a true bastard. Started as a bootlegger, running rum from Cuba during Prohibition, probably. Then he got into land, but in really predatory ways. Sharecropping, where he took almost all the profit, foreclosing on people. Just ruthless stuff.
Wow, so the political power was built on, well, crime and exploitation, essentially.
Pretty much. And then the grandfather starts the town's main bank, Carter Banking and Loan. Right after the only other bank in town mysteriously burned down. You can read between the lines there.
Yeah, smells a bit fishy. So Landon's whole world, his status, his dad's career, it's all resting on this foundation of, like, fear and greed.
That's the picture. And then you contrast that sharply with the other major family in this story, the Sullivans. Reverend Hegbert Sullivan, he's Jamie's father. He represents the town's, like, rigid moral backbone.
Right. The sources paint him as pretty intense, obsessed with fornicators, but also this real Cold War warrior, right? Equating communism with, what was it, a sickness that doomed mankind to heathenhood.
Exactly. And this wasn't just abstract moralizing. There was a direct feud. Hegbert actually aimed his anti-communist sermons directly at Congressman Worth Carter, because Carter was on some House committee dealing with supposed red influence.
So it's a public clash, the fire and brimstone preacher versus the son of the capitalist gangster, essentially.
Yeah, it's deeply personal. And Hegbert's own life adds another layer. His wife died giving birth to Jamie, their only child after 6 miscarriages. He was 55 when Jamie was born, so he's this older, isolated widower raising this daughter alone. You can see why he'd be protective, maybe a bit grim.
And that brings us to Jamie Sullivan. She sounds like the embodiment of that upbringing. Plain clothes, the brown cardigan, hair always up, always carrying her mom's old Bible.
Yeah, Landon calls her an equal opportunity saint, always helping animals, volunteering with orphans. She's just completely outside the whole high school social game that Landon's caught up in, which makes her, seem like an impossible choice for someone like him.
Okay, so the setting for their worlds colliding is the school play, The Christmas Angel. But hang on, before we get to the play itself, the sources give us these little glimpses of other lives, right? Like Ira Levinson. It sort of provides context for how different people find their way, their moral compass.
That's a good point, because Landon's path feels almost accidental at first, driven by circumstance. Ira Levinson, though, this elderly man looking back on his life, his character was shaped differently by his father's rules for life. Very structured, very deliberate.
Like what sort of rules?
Oh, things like always have a firm handshake, always give the customer a little extra, never touch a hot stove burner, or practical stuff, but also ethical guidelines passed down.
Okay, so it's inherited principle versus Landon's, well, rebellion and image consciousness, initially.
Right. And Ira's life partner, Ruth, who fled Vienna after the aunt was incredibly smart, spoke multiple languages, loved Dostoevsky, played piano. He met her following his father's advice. Marry a woman who is smarter than you. Their connection was built on intellect and shared values, not high school popularity contests.
A very different path to character. Landon, though, he needed a push. And it comes from running for student body president.
Yeah, kind of reluctantly. His parents pushed him, thought it would look good on his UNC application. He actually wins, which means he has to go to the homecoming dance. And he's desperate for a date.
Who's he trying to avoid?
Well, his mom setting him up, ending up on puke duty, apparently, or taking Carrie Dennis in the tuba playing treasurer. So, in desperation, he asks Jamie Sullivan.
Ah, the equal opportunity saint. And she says yes, but with that condition.
Right. Promise you won't fall in love with me.
Right.
Which, given everything, is just loaded with irony.
And even before the date, Hegbert gives him the third degree, right? Checking his intentions, warning him about pranks. That feud is always simmering just below the surface.
Always. But the real kicker that night isn't the dance itself. It's afterwards. Landon's ex-girlfriend, Angela, gets wasted on spiked punch and throws up all over the girl's bathroom.
Oh, no.
And who ends up cleaning it? Landon, Mr. Popular Congressman's son, in his best suit, alongside Jamie.
Wow. Okay. For a guy obsessed with his image, cleaning up vomit with the minister's daughter, that's got to be a low point. Or maybe a turning point.
I think definitely a turning point, a humbling one. It forces him out of his bubble. And maybe feeling some guilt, because he and his friends used to tease her, he agrees when Jamie later convinces him to take the lead role in the school play.
The Christmas Angel, which was written by Hegbert himself, wasn't it? Based on his own life.
Yeah, it's about a widower meeting an angel who helps him help others. Very Hegbert. So Landon ends up having to embody this story of grief and faith, replacing the kid who was struggling with the part.
This just keeps pushing them together. And then there's the charity project for the orphans.
Right. Jamie organized this collection, put cans out all over town. But when they gather them up, it's pretty pathetic, like $55 and change. And worse, it includes paper clips, slugs, stuff Landon and his own friends had tossed in earlier, just being jerks.
Ouch. That must have hit him, seeing that.
You'd think so. They even had this idea to perform the play for the orphans in Morehead City. But the director there, Mr. Jenkins, he shuts it down. Says a play about a loving father and daughter would be too painful for kids who don't have that. Another dose of reality for them.
So what does Landon do about the collection money?
This is key. He lies to Jamie about the total they collected. Makes it sound better than it was.
Yeah.
And then he secretly adds his own money. A lot of it. Brings the total up to over $460.
Whoa.
And Jamie is just overjoyed. She says, last year, I only collected $70.
Her genuine happiness seeing that. It's the first time Landon does something truly selfless, with no expectation of getting credit for it. It's a huge internal shift.
Okay, I can see the change building. And it all comes to a head during the play itself.
Absolutely, the final performance. Jamie does something different. She wears her hair down. It's described as honey-colored with glitter in it. And Landon delivering the line, "You're beautiful," he finally says it like he means it, like he truly sees her.
And the reaction. Apparently it was powerful. Even Hegbert, her stoic father, is in the audience, visibly crying, whispering, "My angel." The whole town sees this connection.
So Landon's feelings are undeniable now. He proposes.
He does. He realizes he's fallen for her, despite his promise. And that's when Jamie drops the bombshell.
The leukemia.
Yeah. A rare, untreatable form. She's known since the summer before. The doctors gave her maybe a year, probably less. And suddenly, everything clicks into place for Landon Hegbert's weariness, Jamie's quiet intensity, her focus on making every moment count.
That's devastating. How does he react?
Shock, denial, anger, the works. And the awful realization that he only got to know her, really know her after she was already sick. He never knew her fully healthy.
So what does he do?
He feels lost, but then he starts reading that Bible Jamie gave him, looking for answers, maybe the sign. He finds a passage he underlined in Psalms, something about crying out to God. And later, the famous passage from Corinthians about love being patient and kind, the one she wanted to read at her wedding.
So he finds his purpose.
It seems like it. He realizes his purpose isn't to fix the unfixable, but to give Jamie her deepest wish. So he goes to Hegbert, asks for Jamie's hand in marriage.
How does Hegbert react to that?
After everything, Hegbert just looks at him and says, "Have her home by 10. It's acceptance, maybe resignation, but permission. They get married really quickly, March 12th, 1959.
And the wedding itself sounds incredibly moving.
Oh, yeah. The whole town turned out, over 200 people. Even Landon's old friends, Eric and Lou, and his ex, Angela, were there. Jamie had been bedridden for 2 weeks, but she insisted on walking down the aisle,
With her father.
with Egbert supporting her.
Mhm.
Landon describes it as the most difficult walk anyone ever had to make. Just imagine the strength it took.
And then the moment at the altar.
Yeah, this is incredibly symbolic. When they reach the front, Jamie's in a wheelchair by then. And Landon, his powerful father, Worth Carter, and Reverend Egbert Sullivan, all three kneel beside her chair during the ceremony.
Wow. The congressman, the minister, the boy,
Yeah,
all brought together by her.
exactly. Egbert apparently struggled to even start the service, breaking tradition overcome with emotion. That single image, the three men kneeling, it's like the end of the war between those families, silent and profound.
That's powerful stuff. Now, just briefly, the sources offer these modern counterpoints, like
Yeah.
Sophia Danko and Luke Collins. How does their story contrast with Landon and Jamie's?
It's a stark difference in how conflict is handled, I think. Sophia is a college student, daughter of immigrants. On scholarship, she runs into her rich, cheating ex-boyfriend Brian at a bull riding event after party. He gets aggressive.
And Luke Collins, the bull rider, steps in.
Yeah, but his method isn't about reconciliation or understanding. Brian confronts him, Luke uses his strength and skill, slams Brian down, and literally puts his boot on the guy's neck and fingers until he backs off.
So it's immediate physical dominance, very different from the slow burn of change and forgiveness we see with Landon.
Totally different era. Different social rules, maybe. Luke's action resolves the immediate threat, but there's no sense of healing or bridging divides like in Landon's story.
Yeah.
It's just dominance.
Okay, so bringing it back to Landon, his journey is really the core here. He starts out using his family name, concerned with image, kind of reckless, but he ends up finding meaning through service, through love, and it even seems to mend his relationship with his own absent father.
Absolutely. His marriage to Jamie, however brief and tragic, becomes this unbelievable bridge. It connects the world of his grandfather's, arguably criminal wealth and his father's political power with Egbert's rigid moral world. Two sides of Beaufort that seem totally irreconcilable.
And Landon himself credits Jamie for who he became. He says she brought forgiveness into his life, helped him grow up. He ends the story saying he believes miracles can happen.
Which brings us to that final question for you, the listener, to think about. Given those decades of bitterness between Worth Carter, the politician built on dirty money, and Egbert Sullivan, the minister, driven by fierce morality, how truly significant is it that the love between their children, born from kind of desperation and shadowed by tragedy, was the only thing that could finally mend that divide?
Yeah, what exactly was the miracle Landon's talking about? Was he hoping for a medical miracle for Jamie? Or was the miracle the healing itself, the forgiveness, the reconciliation between these families, and maybe within Landon himself? Something to ponder.